Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Nameless Retro Wrestling Show, brought to you by Wrestling Mecca Radio. We are coming to you live on Wrestling Mecca Radio, or Wrestling Mecca, I should say, the Wrestling Mecca page, as well as our own Facebook page, Nameless Retro Wrestling Show. You can also find us on Twitch if that's your thing. You can also find all the archives as well as the live stream on YouTube at the Nameless Retro Wrestling Show YouTube page as well. We invite you all into the conversation. We are going to get into a couple of different things before we get, or actually one thing before we get into our review. But just wanted to, once again, we made an announcement on our page on Facebook today. This Wrestling Mecca Radio thing, Mike, is going to be a big deal. We're under this umbrella. We're just kind of we're the guinea pig. But there's a lot of stuff in the hopper, in the cooker, if you will, coming your way from Wrestling Mecca Radio.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still stuck on the fact that this thing can live in perpetuity on fucking YouTube. In your initial statements there, can you imagine? Wow, that's just wow.
They're all there. All of our stupid nonsense talking about these silly wrestling shows is there in the archives for everyone to go back and watch.
But the Wrestling Mecca deal. I mean, this will be outstanding. We are going to be expanding. There are several other projects that we're working on, different people, different personalities coming on. We think everybody will be pleased for sure.
Yeah, we're going to bring a little bit of something different to each show. This is the retro wrestling review show where we just watch old shows and we talk about the retro, the old school business. And then there will definitely be some other things.
Can I rant real quick about that too? Let's rant real quick. The reason why we don't want to do a current show is because nobody wants to watch all that shit at 250 hours a year, whatever it is. Like all the people who keep saying that you will, or it's because of this, or it's stop that shit. Nobody wants to watch all that shit. Get out of here.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not interested in it. We are going to have Wrestling Jeopardy, something that originated. We did one on this show, but it's going to become its own entity, its own show unto itself, Wrestling Jeopardy. So if you are interested in participating and being a participant in the show, please hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to have you on. We are taking applications. We do have a poll. If you haven't seen it yet, it should be pinned at the top of the Wrestling Mecca page. It's also on my Facebook page as well. We have a poll for next week's show. What we're going to watch. They're all summer-related shows. Vote. We want to get some audience participation so you could tell us what you're interested in us reviewing. There is SummerSlam 1989, Heatwave 98, Bash at the Beach 94, and the 2004 Noah Tokyo Dome show, which took place in the summer. So if you want us to review one of those four, please give us a vote.
I was supposed to work that show.
No shit. We'll get into that if we watch that show. Let's not spoil that.
The top 5 most disappointing things and stories I have in my life. Just horrible.
I can imagine. All right. Before we get into Mid-South Wrestling's WrestleFest 1985, which I'll just, spoiler alert, I was pretty goddamn entertained by, and we'll get into it in depth. We would be remiss. We say we don't want to talk about the stuff that's going on now, but there was a humongous story that we can put a retro spin on. And
it's tied into history. Come on. I mean, how many of the man's shows are we going to talk about on this fucking podcast? So, I mean, that's just the way that it is, man. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben Monty, my buddy Ben, Foley versus Funk Japanese death match for future consideration. We will. We can definitely watch it. I remember.
Well, we can watch that whole tournament if you want. Yeah, I got it.
Yep, there you go. So yeah, great suggestion. We will definitely watch maybe that coming up in the futures. Maybe you can join us when we watch that show, Ben.
Hey now.
Yes. But let's talk about Vince McMahon. We would be remiss if we did not talk about Vince McMahon. He retired at the age of 77 this week. Retired, forced to retire, pushed out, whatever you may say, or just stepping aside publicly, whatever conspiracy theory you want. I'm not interested in talking about that aspect of it. I'm not interested in getting into why he might be retiring or the scandal that is going on with him when he necessarily. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of that. What I do want to get into is the narratives that have come out about Vince McMahon in the wake of his announcement of his retirement.
Horrible.
And the great amount of hyperbole that is out there about Vince McMahon and how he quote unquote changed the business and brought the business to the mainstream, and brought the business to heights it had never seen before. Like, that is a narrative that is very short-sighted and
False.
does not take into
Yeah,
account
fucking
the
false. That's what it is. It's fucking false. Listen, I've been into some shit over and I've even said, and Ben knows this, and Chuck over at Wrestling Mecca knows this. When this news broke, all I could think of is the stupid comments that were going to come out, and there were just so many of them that were just fucking ridiculous. Listen, Vince, you got to give him his flowers. In the promoter game of trying to make the most money, I mean, he did that. He won. He grew his business to a level that nobody else ever could. But this idea that he grew the industry into, Blue Meanie had a horrible fucking take on it. Like, I think he said he grew it to a way that others tried to and never could, or something like that. And it's like, no, not really. Nobody really tried to put everybody else out of business. That was Vince's thing, man. I mean, that's just the reality of the fucking situation. And that's fine that he did that for himself. Again, like, all these guys are in it to make money. And he made the most money, so he's the fucking winner. End of story. There's no question about that. But as far as
if we're a game of Monopoly, he's won that game.
Yeah, but as far as the industry as a whole, yeah, no, that's not accurate. And one guy at Wrestling Mecca, this asshole, I have no problem debating with people. That's fine. But if you're just gonna come in acting like an asshole, then you put me in no position, other position than to defend myself. Okay, and I'm gonna come out attacking. But it's just like all this stuff that he's saying, or that this guy was saying, and it's not just him, it's people who think it, that like, well, Vince did this and he got this and over 10 million viewers worldwide. And I'm like, you don't think that was the case before? Like, I promise you it was. Like, there's so much shit that he gets credit for that's just like way over the top. Like, pro wrestling was not some fucking like, small dinner club thing before fucking Vince McMahon got a hold of it. It's
exactly. Well, here's what you have to understand. When you make that argument, you are failing to acknowledge the fact that when television first started, one of the very first programs that was put on television, on anything regular,
network, network, yeah, and then cable.
Pro wrestling was some of the first content for regular TV. Your basic, what do you call it? 2, 5, 7, and 9. Those channels, right? The old school when there was only 5 channels.
Network, yeah,
wrestling,
TV, yeah,
wrestling,
network television, yes.
And tens of millions of people were tuning in on a weekly basis to territories all over the country every single week. At this time, it was a major entertainment source. Professional wrestling was a major live entertainment source. Make no mistake.
They did big ratings. Gorgeous George was one of the biggest television stars of the 1950s. And, there was even Dave Meltzer, he's told that story in the past that like his parents knew who Vern Gagne was. Cause like Vern Gagne was a guy that was on TV, had a amateur background and stuff like that. He was a well-known guy. Like, and they were not wrestling fans in the slightest, which is why he said it. But I mean, it's always been that way. It's been, and not just guys nationally, but like, it's not like these guys were, again, wrestling in fucking clubs or bars or whatever, like in quote unquote territories. Like, these guys are huge fucking stars, like selling out, 10 to 15,000 seat arenas, like all the arenas that, WWF was running later. And in most of those cities, doing better crowds. I mean, definitely the ones that had wrestling. When WWF moved into most territory cities, like what that had well-established territories, it took them a while to win people over because
we're going to see why when we talk about this Mid-South show. The crowd in Tulsa, Oklahoma is amazing, and they're into everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think I can make an argument. Not only did Vince McMahon not take the business to heights it's never been before, I think I can make the argument that he ruined the business in many ways by consolidating it all to himself. The way he went about doing it and killing off the territories is it. It just it does. I feel like wrestling is not. It took a turn for the worse. Options were more limited. How it was presented was differently. When they stopped presenting it as a sport and started presenting it as entertainment, I think it lost something. There's a mass exodus of people that did not ever come back, no matter not even in the 90s.
Yeah, but the way that he promoted wrestling was 100% correct. I mean, there's no arguing that. I mean, it's not, again, whether you want to, and we talked about this offline too. People have been saying this shit about WWF. Like, if you're bitching about it on social media, you're so fucking cliche. Like, I told you in old observers, like 83, 84, 85, like when Vince is buying and when he really starts expanding, it reads like social media threads today. It's talking about it, like it's not good wrestling. All they do is talk. Fucking Mr. T and Logan Paul and all that fucking shit. And it's like, it's all the same. They've been doing that shit forever, man. But I mean, the way that he chose to promote it was right. I mean, like, that wrestling thing, it's a sport. No, everyone knew it was fucking fake anyway. That's fucking way overdone too. Like, Vince did it. There's articles and fucking newspaper clippings. Like, there was probably a higher percentage of people that believed it, but that shit was way out there already. But I mean, he chose to promote it in the way that was going to make him the most money, and that was the way to do it, man. I mean, the other stuff was very limited, and it did appeal to, kind of a certain fan, like not a good, like, demographic fan for advertisers. I mean, that's kind of the deal. He expanded it he expanded the perception of it for sure. That much I can say.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, if the game is be the last man standing and make as much money as possible, then yes, then he was as successful, and there's never been anyone probably more successful as a promoter than Vince McMahon when it comes to that.
No, never. He won.
To what the changes to professional wrestling and how it was presented, again, my personal opinion, his influence on the business long term is a detriment to me. And we have a comment in there from Rocky Drew. Rocky says, I was born in 86 and watched some of the territory stuff on WWE Network. I think if the territories were around today, the business would be better. Competition brings out the best in everyone, in my opinion. And there's something to that, I think.
Yeah, but the problem was too is that they weren't going to be able to survive, because I mean, they did for a little while. Memphis did for a while. I mean, they went. I mean, the problem was that cable changed everything. Once they got on cable, then then you could be seen everywhere. I mean, the territories survived because that was the only wrestling you got. That was your wrestling. I mean, that was it. So you got one thing on fucking Memphis Channel 5 in the mornings. I mean, that was their wrestling every fucking morning. But as far as the industry as a whole, but that's, hey, Memphis was doing 70 shares. That means 70% of the televisions that got that fucking TV station in and around Memphis, not just in Memphis. 70% of not the ones that were on, 70% of the ones that were plugged into fucking walls in the home that were watching fucking Memphis wrestling in the morning instead of fucking Saturday morning cartoons.
Think about that. That's incredible, right? But I think the entertainment, the television business changed, and the wrestling business had to change to adapt to it. And territories wouldn't have survived because there is no more regional television.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
No.
Regional television isn't a thing at all anymore. So the territories couldn't possibly exist. The territories have become what the indies are today, where get deal or you get your first streaming deal. That's the best. That's the best about as close to regional television as we have in this area.
And I think we even saw that. I mean, even in, going into the 90s when it was becoming less of a thing, because ECW would be in syndication. And I mean, they could get, like a good amount of the people that would watch them to spend money on things that, ECW had a high conversion rate, but like, you're not watching that shit if you're watching, like a major league, well produced product. I mean, that's the problem with regional too, is that it tends to be smaller. So yeah, I mean, you and I have talked. I mean, that's the best. That was the best time to be a wrestling fan because there's so much like great wrestling all over. And the best part is now is that if you really want to hunt it down, you don't even have to hunt. I mean, there's a lot of it just out there that you can check out. But it's just a much more interesting time to be a fan. But I mean, the shit that like this is, and Cornette's broken it down before. He a lot of his stuff is shtick, but I mean, he's broken it down with numbers, with like how many full wrestlers were making a full-time living, like in the territories versus now, and it's a lot more because there's fucking places all over, and they're doing, this is not like a second job for people. This is not indie wrestling. Like, this is, they could earn a living working the loop, and I mean, it was just in a better place then. But yeah, as far as like being a businessman for himself, Vince did it.
Yeah. And as a wrestler in the territory days, you could stay fresh. You could work a territory for a while, move to a different territory, and have a whole new run, and then maybe tweak your character a little bit, and then find yourself a little bit more. That doesn't really exist anymore, and that's the secret sauce of the business that we appreciate here on this show, and that's why we do this, and we don't really talk about the new school stuff, because comparing the eras doesn't make any sense, because you can't compare the businesses. Vince McMahon is trying to do something completely different than what he was trying to do in 1985. He's not trying to take over. He's already taken over the wrestling business. Now he's about maximizing his brand, the brand that he has spent now almost 4 decades building. He is maximizing its profitability, and he's done that amazingly. Look at their fucking profits in the billions at this point.
Well, I mean, but when they're throwing in shit like he made it more mainstream or whatever, and it's like, like how many wrestlers were in movies? It's like, first of all, Hogan got Rocky before he was in WWF because of the business that he was doing in the AWA, selling out in fucking major markets like Chicago.
Was getting Schwarzenegger movies without Vince's help.
Yeah, and then you add, exactly, and then I mean, like, Santo did what, 52 fucking movies in Mexico, like. Mitsuharu Misawa was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest line at a funeral, 2.5 miles to see his fucking body. Like, Vince McMahon had nothing to do with that. So when it's like, he created this quote unquote global phenomenon, it's like he couldn't even draw in either one of those places. They were much bigger fucking, like, these are like cultural icons, like, far more than just Hulk Hogan. Like, 2.5 miles at a fucking funeral. Like, are you serious? Come on, man.
Right.
52 fucking movies? Like, Jesus Christ.
Exactly. It's
Hogan did fucking Mr. Nanny. Who the fuck cares?
All right, Suburban Commando. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
All right. So that's really, I mean, we've spent now about 15 minutes talking about Vince McMahon, and that's about as much as I want to talk about Vince McMahon, unless you got something else.
No, I mean, just a comment right here for the question from Rocky about Smoky Mountain. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was not technically, but Cornette was working for WWF and owned Smoky, so I mean, they were sending people back and forth.
Where they had a working relationship, yeah.
Yeah, but WWF was also doing that with, USWA at the time too.
Correct. All right, so that's
what's funny. Real quick, when they say like WWF, like when everyone, AEW and Impact, this has never happened before. It's like WWF was working with like USWA, Smoky Mountain, and ECW at the same fucking time.
Rocky, we definitely don't count out. We've watched, I believe, a Clash of the Champions in the past. You can go back in the archives and check it out. We love that old WCW stuff. Eric, welcome to the show, man. Thank you very much.
There'll be some clashes, and there will be. We are working on we will get into it a little bit more in the future, but there is a very special. If you are a fan of WWF, WCW era stuff, there is a very special project that we are going to be working on.
The Last Great War.
Yes. Yes.
Before we get there, we are going to talk about Mid-South Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. 1985's Mid-South WrestleFest, brought to you by Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling.
I don't care what anybody says. That's Bob Holly, dude. That's fucking Bob Holly right there.
In the logo, yeah, it does kind of look like him. All right, so away we go. I want to talk about something before we dive into the actual matches themselves. You teased, I believe I don't know if it was on the air or off the air. You teased to me this idea that there was a point in time where a choice had to be made between Jim Crockett Promotions and NWA and Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling. And it went Jim Crockett Promotion NWA's way, but it could have gone the other way. Give me some more context, if you can, to what you were referring to. I think that's a good place to jump off here and talk about Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling.
I mean, it just came down to, I mean, it was right before this too. It would have been March or April of '85. What's this, July, right? This is July, this WrestleFest.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the 28th. It's
Yeah.
to the day today, in 1985. So,
oh, interesting. Yeah. Wow, anniversary. Wow. Jesus Christ, that was 37 years ago. Fuck, I'm old. But no, they I mean March, April 85. I mean, it came down. I mean, Turner knew that he wanted Vince off, and I mean, it came down to Watts or Crockett. And he went with Crockett. And I think he went with Crockett probably more so because of Flair. But I mean, he was he was strongly considering Watts for sure. And Watts had an hour on Sunday that he gave him after Turner knew that Vince was giving him shit product that he did not want. He did put Watts on another day. But yeah, I mean, if he would have went with him instead of Crockett, and I mean, that means that it's Watts versus Vince on the national stage instead of Crockett. And that's a big deal. I mean, that was what
it's a completely different roster. It is a very different roster on the undercard and the mid card between those two promotions. And we'll see it in depth as we break down. And I think that's why I wanted to start there, because this show in that context now shows you the undercard of this show. There is some superstars that are about to explode onto the scene for WWE and Vince McMahon. So the show begins. This show is weird because there's no commentary. There's commentary on the version that's on YouTube. There's only 2 matches that have commentary, and that's the one-man gang Wendell Cooley match, which was number 2, and then there's Japanese commentary over the Flair Dusty match. Otherwise, there's no commentary, but you get crowd noise, which does provide a little bit of a different watching experience when you're just.
I'm all for that.
I do think there is something to that. Now, I like the announcers for context of what the feuds are and that sort of thing. But there is something to be said about just watching a show where you just hear the crowd and there's no commentary there, and it's almost like you're sitting in the crowd yourself.
If I have a choice between no commentary or commentary with the fucking crowd muted like they did in that one-man gang Wendell Cooley match, I would much rather not have the commentary, because crowd reaction is important. You're working for the crowd. Like, how the fuck can you judge a match if you don't know what the crowd's doing?
Yeah, very much so. And those of you that are watching along in the comments, please, let us know what are your thoughts? Commentary, no commentary? What is your preference? Because this show doesn't have much commentary, and I think it adds to it for this show.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah, Jim Ross is a fucking ring announcer.
Yes, so odd. And this show is also outdoors in Skelly Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It looks very hot. It looks like, and the canvas is orange.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and the canvas is like an orange yellow color, which I imagine in that blazing sun made that canvas no fun to lay on. And if I remember correctly, there's not a lot of guys that were laying on that mat for long periods of time, because I can imagine it was fun.
I will say, before we dive completely into this show and get into the matches, one thing about Vince, and this kind of shows that too. Is that, and eventually he started doing it, so it's fine. But I mean, Vince didn't create a star for fucking 6 years. I mean, really, the first star that you could say he created is Ultimate Warrior, and you're seeing it here because all these guys, they're fucking stars and they're drawing money. Like that's what Vince did. He took all the guys that were drawing money, like Hulk Hogan. Like I said, he's already got fucking Rocky 3, and he already selling tickets in Chicago and where, I mean, everywhere he was selling tickets out here in the Bay Area. I mean, like same with Piper on national cable, on Georgia Championship Wrestling. He's drawing money everywhere. Like, so, and you see in this Mid-South show that just like of all the guys that go to WWF, it's like, they're right under Hogan guys, quite a few of them, they're in that second tier.
Guys, in the comments, we may not get to all the questions right here, but I think at the end of the show we can kind of rapid fire do some questions from the crowd. We'll answer all those questions. So if we don't answer them right away while we're discussing this, I promise you, keep putting questions there. We'll give you an answer. We'll at least give you something. All right. So we open the show with Al Perez and Mark Reagan. I think that's how you say his last name, Mark Reagan. Yeah. I don't know that I'll ever see Mark Reagan before or after this match. It was an okay match. Al Perez is fine. He's an undercard guy. Al Perez kind of always seemed like a jobber to me. But
I liked Al Perez.
He was treated as a star here. The fans liked him. It was a very basic match, nothing spectacular, and that's what you expect in an opener on a Mid-South show.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a philosophy here to this match, too, that I think people take for granted because, I don't know, someone stupid said it somewhere and then a bunch of other stupid people started repeating it. But this idea that you have to start a show out hot is fallacy. It just is. Like when you go to a show like a big show, like the first bump gets a huge pop. Like this idea that you have to do a bunch of shit because you have to start out hot is like fucking ridiculous, man. Like, I mean, they barely did anything here, and it wasn't good, but I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's technically sound, I guess you could call it more than anything. But I mean, the crowd was into the finish. They're into the first hip toss. Like they lost their shit, dude, because it's the first bump of the night. Like they went crazy.
Yeah, if you've ever been to a house show, even a WWE house show. The opening match is probably the hottest of the entire night as far as the crowd, because they're just ready to watch wrestling. Yeah, and this doesn't waste a lot of time. It's 5 minutes and 55 seconds. They do some stuff. They get Al Perez over. Mark Reagan does his job as a jobber. Yeah. It's all well and good. There is a point in the show that there's a redneck in the front row that yells, "We need some action," which is the rednecks in this crowd, because Reagan is an African American, which so they kind of they yell.
Yeah, I don't think it was that though. This match needed some fucking action. I mean, they weren't doing shit, dude.
Probably needed some action.
Trust me, I don't think there's a lot of in '85. I don't think there was a lot of covert racism. Like I'm sure if he wanted to say something, he would have fucking said it.
For sure, absolutely sure. So the next match is One Man Gang taking on Wendell Cooley. This is actually the second week in a row we get to watch Territory One Man Gang. And once again, last week we talked about he had that taped fist match with
Iceman
Parsons.
Yeah.
Here he has a really fun match with Wendell Cooley. Dude, I'm telling you,
I love Wendell Cooley though.
Territory One Man Gang is highly underrated. I think people look at him as the WWF version of One Man Gang and Akeem, and as kind of a joke. But Territory One Man.
It's sad. It's sad. I think he's known. He's known for Akeem. Like that's like what he's known for.
Yeah, and it's not.
I think Bruce and Conrad got into that in one of the episodes because, like, I think Conrad said he's like, "Don't you kind of think that he's known as Akeem?" And Pritchard's working. I mean, he's working for Watts and Houston Wrestling and all that. He's like, no way, fucking One Man Gang, 747, all. And he's right. I mean, this is like his peak, and he's an underrated worker too, man. It's not all like flashy moves and shit. I mean, He knew how to do
bumbling
shit.
big man either.
Yeah.
He sells when he's supposed to sell. He makes the guy look good, even though he is way bigger than the other guy. He knows how to make himself still look strong while still kind of tripping over himself when necessary. I mean, he's just really, really, really good. Really underrated. Wendell Cooley is perfectly good too.
I love Wendell Cooley. I love Wildcat Wendell Cooley.
I think there's a lot, who knows? Probably, I don't know. I would imagine a guy like Wendell Cooley looks like a guy that lost some opportunities over drugs. I'm just speculating, but I don't know why Wendell Cooley never really became more of a thing, because I've heard a lot of people talk about
he worked all over though. He was a steady territory worker. He worked some WCW shots every once in a while. He wasn't great or anything. I mean, he had a good look, pretty good look. He was a really fun territory guy, man.
Yeah.
He was an East Tennessee wrestler. Like, that's just, he was good in Memphis. He was good in Continental and stuff like that. Like, I think that was just kind of his where he could really kind of come out. Everywhere else, he was just,
Sure.
Not everybody's looking for a fucking cowboy on the national scene by that time. So that was dying out a little bit.
That too. That leads us to our next match, which was the Barbarian, not that Barbarian, Nord the Barbarian, John Nord the Barbarian. Very early in his career, very early. Before you wouldn't, if you saw John Nord, you thought Berserker, something along those lines. You would never recognize John Nord as the same guy here. He looks completely different. He's got a mohawk and a Fu Manchu, and he looks like a Blade Runner more than he looks like a barbarian. In the traditional sense that we know him, and
he's
takes on
badass though. John Nord's highly underrated. That Berserker run fucked him up too.
Yeah, you're right. In the same way that Akeem fucked up One Man Gang, I think people remember him as Berserker, but John Nord the Barbarian was pretty decent. Even here,
at least Akeem got like One Man Gang stuff in WWF and like on national TV, more of it. But he's just he's just a berserker there. Ugh, what a waste.
Yeah, what an absolute waste. He takes on Brickhouse Brown. Now I don't know much about Brickhouse Brown, so I need you to smarten me up a bit.
Oh, I love Brickhouse Brown. Just he's at biggest places that he ran. His longest runs were. He's a Memphis guy. He's pretty much a Memphis guy. He worked other places. He worked in Dallas, and he worked for Crockett. He worked all over, but he's primarily a Memphis guy.
Now he's got from what I understand, a pretty legendary shoot interview. And you said
it's Brickhouse TV. He had like a whole season of. There's all kinds of Brickhouse Brown shit on High Spots. Unfortunately, he has passed away. But
so they put out this preview video. I haven't watched it. You said it's one of the funniest things you've ever seen. You were dying laughing. I purposely didn't watch it so that we can get my genuine reaction to this. But let's check out Brickhouse Brown's shoot interview, adults only.
I was so fucking happy he fucking called, man. I went to Orlando and said, sir, well, I got bad news. I got to fucking finish up. He said, well, damn, that's the first start and finish date I ever got in my entire time. He said, damn, Brickhouse, what's wrong? I said, well, Bill Watts just called me and told me I was a stupid motherfucker for listening to you. And oh, by the way, he told me to tell you to suck my dick. I got my money first before I said that. And I said, oh, by the way, he told me to tell you to suck my dick. Bye.
Wait, hold on. Rewind. You cannot miss the setup to this because it gets way just wow. No, you got to rewind again. Where's the music? Where's the sound?
That's me. I muted myself because I was coughing. My bad.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, shit.
Beat it out for him. Suck my dick.
Here we go.
I know one thing. I got Jeff Jarrett his first black piece of pussy. I beat it out for him. And shit, he's been sprung ever since. You know what I'm saying?
He's been sprung ever since.
Know what I'm saying? Oh, my God.
Oh, Brickhouse Brown. I'm gonna have to watch it. There's like a 2-hour interview on YouTube of Brickhouse Brown. It sounds like must see TV. Brickhouse Brown TV season 1.
Wait,
Wrestling
you
Network.
gotta play to the part to where he talks about Jackie, because that is actually fucking hilarious too.
Okay, hold on.
Because he's Memphis.
Came and snatched kiked the motherfucker out of my bag. That's how I lost to Texas Tyler while I was in the fucking shower. That's got to be a record too. Goddamn, Brickhouse is gonna sell all kind of fucking unprecedented records. I lost the Texas Tyler. I just thought of that. I lost the Texas belt in the motherfucking shower while I'm washing my ass. Ain't that something? Like I said, Jackie deserved everything she got. I ain't mad at Jackie for whatever she did to get there. I'm not mad at her because, like I said, at one time, I would say this honestly: if I fucking had a pussy and I was trying to get in the wrestling business, you better bet your ass I'm gonna be fucking some promoters. I'm gonna be trying to do what I can do to get what I can get. If I had a pussy, I'd be fucking selling the fuck out that motherfucker. Here, come on, get it, boy. You can sign that check over there too while you're doing that.
Wait, let a little bit more play, because there's some names in the first little bit I know. That's hilarious.
I say, yeah. I say, shit, yeah, I'm not a team player. When I'm the only motherfucker on the team actually do bullshit, suck my dick. I used to tell Eric that all the time. Suck my dick, Eric. I ain't fucking doing it. So Jeff left out the dressing room. Bruno told one more fucking joke,
Harvey Whippleman.
Downtown Bruno, yeah.
Unemployment rate. Say, I don't know, Bruno. How do you help the unemployment rate? Just increase the National Basketball League, NBA, to 200 teams. And everybody started laughing, right? So I pulled out my gun. I said, all right, that's it, goddammit. I'm tired of these fucking nigga jokes. Everybody on the fucking floor right fucking now. Get on the floor. I on the fucking floor. I went to each fucking guy with my gun to the fucking head. This is a true story. Bruno first. So you want to tell nigga jokes, Bruno? I'm gonna be just the way you want me to motherfucking be. You think this funny now? Ha ha ho ho hee hee. I don't hear you laughing, motherfucker. I see sitting in the back and just pinching myself. God damn. That's the nature boy Ric Flair over there. I'm marking out, but I ain't letting them motherfuckers know it. God damn. That's handsome Jimmy Valiant right there. That's Playboy Gary Hart. Shit. I mean, this is the shit right here. And when I seen him pull out that motherfucking weed, man, I said,
you can stop it. Oh my God. I'm telling you, he's tremendous. Brickhouse Brown is tremendous.
A low key, we didn't know how good you were until you're gone. Brickhouse Brown, that's amazing. I would love to have sat down with that dude and smoked weed and listened to him tell stories. Unbelievable. All right, that leads us to our next match of the evening, which is
John Nord killed him, by the way.
Oh yes, yeah. There wasn't much.
But it was fun though too.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, Brickhouse solid.
With a headbutt, with some headbutts, because that's what black guys do in the 80s.
Yeah.
Nord hits
progressive sport that pro wrestling was.
He finished him with the full Norwegian Nelson at 4 minutes and 49 seconds. All right, our next match of the evening is me. I can't believe I'm going to say this because it's kind of been a running joke about how much I hate the Fantastics, but this, for whatever reason, and I think it was because there was no commentary and it was just the crowd noise.
I keep telling you, man.
A different perspective on the Fantastics.
I keep telling you.
What you cannot underestimate and what you've got to give them their due for is that they were so popular with women. This Tulsa, Oklahoma crowd, there are teenage and middle-aged women and some old ladies losing their goddamn minds that they get to touch the Fantastics, just touching them, getting a hug or being able to touch their arm like they were rock stars, like they were the Rolling Stones. It was impressive, man, and they do that everywhere. And I don't like their work. Tommy Rogers, Bobby Fulton, I don't care for their work, but I have to give the devil their due. They are the Hulk Hogan of tag teams.
Man, I like their work too. Bobby Fulton is really the guy that plays to the crowd and gets them going, and Tommy Rogers is kind of the meat and potatoes of the team. But like when he made that hot tag in this fucking match, they went fucking nuts. And he came in with a fucking drop kick right away. That fucking Tommy Rogers drop kick is awesome. He came in like a fucking shotgun, just threw that thing, and it hit. The crowd went nuts. They're really good, man. I always enjoyed the Fantastics. They had some. I mean, pretty much everywhere they've been.
Eddie Gilbert and Jerry Gray are really good opponents.
They were really good.
Really
good. Jerry Gray was really good. It was unfortunate that he got out of the business because you could see him. I mean, Eddie's a little bit less polished here, but like Gray is. He's really good playing to the crowd. Like, I mean, he's a perfect mid-card heel in this match.
Perfect. And you could beat him all day long and it wouldn't matter. But he'd give your baby faces really good matches. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, this is, we'll get into our rankings, but this was, I can't believe I'm saying this, probably my favorite match on the show. It was probably my favorite match on the show. And just because I was in awe of how over the Fantastics were. The crowd, and there were men in the crowd that were losing their shit, cheering them too. Like, yeah. I can't underestimate or underplay how incredibly popular the Fantastics were in front of this Oklahoma crowd. They were the shit.
Yeah, Rocky Drew just the Fantastics against Gilbert and Simmons. He watched it. That was Clash 4, and yeah, that match it's a little long, but it's good. But I mean, like that year, I mean, shit, their matches with the Midnights. I mean, they had a fucking on that Clash 1. I thought that match was better than Flair Sting on Clash 1. That match was fucking outstanding.
So here's my question to you, Michael V. I asked you this, and I told you I was going to ask this, and I didn't get a response to you. So I'm imagining it's because either you don't have an answer or you were sitting on the answer, and because we're going to record this show. My question to you is based on how incredibly popular the Fantastics were. How is it that Vince didn't get them? How did they not end up in WWF in 1985, 86?
I think it was this. I mean, with them, I'm pretty sure it was the same thing as like the Rock and Rolls and the Midnights. Is that like I mean, Vince never offered anything. I mean, they knew they were going to like Land of the Giants, and do we really want to just hope that he's gonna push us or whatever? I mean,
wouldn't they have been great opponents for the Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation and Tito and Martel and all those tag teams that were there? They would have fitted the Killer Bees, the Rougeaus, the Fantastics.
They're a lot better. They're a lot better than the fucking Killer Bees too.
They could have fit in there, which it just.
Well, they look Southern. They look Southern though too. Bobby Fulton looks Southern. Like that Southern look is not what they. I mean, they did not like that look.
That's fair. That makes sense. But it just seems like you would look at them and go, man, on a national stage, sure, with the Vince machine behind them, they could have been like an earlier version of the Rockers. And Rocky says Vince wanted younger and newer stars to build from the ground up that weren't as popular at the time. And there's maybe
but he took everybody that was popular.
He's about to take DiBiase and Jake Roberts. And they're the next match on this show. He's about to take Reed, who's on this show. He takes One Man Gang. He takes Jim Duggan, who's later on in this show. He takes Kamala, who's on this show.
Yeah, Vince doesn't build anybody for a while. I mean, he tries with certain people, but I mean, even the guys that he's, I mean, he mostly pushes for a while. I mean, those guys were drawing huge money everywhere else. I mean, everywhere.
Right.
Andre, Hogan, Piper. I mean, not just like one place. Yeah, but I mean, they're smaller and they got that Southern look. And, I think to those guys, it's like, if we get used, we're not going to get used as high on the card as we are in a territory. Like, they're not going to get the tag team division built around them like they might somewhere else. And I mean, again, he's only offering, what was it, $1,200 guaranteed or whatever, like the price of whatever, they paid him like $50 for TV and it was like 20 TV shots or whatever. I mean, everything else was all house show based and how you got used and where you got used. So I mean, I could see that. You know, these guys are fucking killing on gimmicks alone in this era.
Oh man, I bet they fucking killed on gimmicks. Holy shit! There's just no way. I mean, the women alone, and that's an element you want to talk about. An element of the crowd from the 80s to the 90s.
Yeah, it's gone.
Women being in the crowd on professional wrestling shows. Back then, there was a large contingent of women that you would say would be women that would go to rock and roll concerts or sporting events. And wrestling was just another thing like where they went and looked at hot guys that were in shape doing that they could get close to. That it was a form of entertainment for females that absolutely no longer exists because of the multitude of other entertainment options that young females have. Wrestling is so low on the totem pole, and that's a large segment of the viewing public that just up and leaves as wrestling goes national. I think you lose.
It came back. It came back. It came. I think it came back for sure in the Attitude Era.
You think the female?
Oh yeah, the Hardys. And are you fucking kidding? When the fucking Hardys were out there, all those fucking shrieking girls. You knew how many fucking girls were in the crowd when the Hardys and Edge and Christian and all those guys were out there.
You're right. They do bring them back a little
Lita,
bit. But,
yeah, they did. No, it was a good fucking contingent. It's more than a little bit. Like you can hear them. I mean, very vocal.
But it's not like 1985. I don't.
Oh no, it's probably more.
Yeah,
it's probably it's. Oh yeah, I mean, there's like, that's kind of the thing too. I mean, first of all, a lot of them are just there with their husbands or whatever. But I mean, I think it might be more. I mean, it's pretty close, man. I mean, it's tough to say for sure, but but I think that's a good indication of when you're hot is when, like people that have other shit that they could be doing, they're actually doing wrestling. Like that's
right. Yeah, I totally agree there. All right, that leads us to what is basically, I guess you would say, is probably one of the semi-main events of the show. Ted DiBiase versus Jake Roberts. Of course, this is obviously before their WrestleMania, about many years later. This is young Jake Roberts, still wearing karate pants, and Jake Roberts, even though it was the style then, it's just an odd look. He looks so trashy and indie with those fucking karate pants on, but that's neither here nor there. What I want to focus on here first and foremost is, we on this show we try to talk about guys that, when you talk about the greats, the guys that are in the top 20 of all time, right? Guys that you may not think of in those terms. Guys that like Akeem and like and like Berserker, we know them most for their WWF stuff, but their stuff pre that time is really their best stuff. And one of the shining prime examples of that, in my opinion, is Ted DiBiase. People don't understand or appreciate or even know how good Addie, you're right. I hope I'm saying that right, Addie.
He popped me.
Yeah. Ted DiBiase's territory Japan work before going to WWF and becoming the $1 Million Man is really, really good. I mean, he's so good. And here's another match where he's really good as the shitty, slimy heel that has the black glove and he's working the gimmick, classic gimmick. But
he's like a badass too.
Yeah.
He's not the pussy $1 Million Man character.
Correct.
Which just shows his depth, because I mean he could do both really well,
Yep.
But no, yeah, I mean it's a contrast. I mean it's like we said, like we just said, Vince marketed wrestling differently. So he was gonna, what he was gonna do was gonna be different than everywhere else. And he did it with the $1 Million Man gimmick. It was different, and it was for his brand of wrestling, like it was hugely successful, and it's going to be what he was remembered for. But in a pro wrestling context, like Mid-South, Ted DiBiase is so much fucking better in the ring. As a like just as kind of a character, because that was the thing with the $1 Million Man character too, is it got stale, man.
Yeah. And Jake Roberts here, you could see why. You could see the star in him. I know he's been working for a bit at this point in 1985. He's not a rookie by any means, but he is not Jake the Snake Roberts, WWF, second in line to Hogan in terms of popularity. He hasn't gotten to that point yet, but you could see him getting there because, again, this Tulsa, Oklahoma crowd loves.
Jake's drawing money at this point. Jake and DiBiase are drawing money. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Vince didn't make Jake a star. I mean, Jake was already a star when long before Vince got him. They're drawing money here. Him and DiBiase draw money. This is semi-main. Like this is just I mean, this is
build-up feud that the fans were interested in seeing. The fans were invested.
This is a match before intermission. That's why Butch Reed and all that is next, because there's an intermission. Clearly, there's that's how you would do your feuds a lot of the time. You'd have your semi-main before the intermission so that you could take a break, and then they come back with Butch Reed and Dutch
again. You remember you're bringing the crowd up. They're up. They've exploded for this big feud. You got to bring them down and let them calm back down so that you could build them back up again.
Yeah. This was better. This is a lot better than their WrestleMania match, and I saw a lot of. Yeah, I saw a lot of house show matches where from that era too with those two, and I mean they're nothing to write home about. I mean this is a lot. This is really good stuff of theirs on film.
Yeah, DiBiase is both of them are really, really, really good. Worth going out of your way to see.
The finish was fucking tremendous too.
Yes. So I have a review here. Before so DiBiase goes to load the Black Fist of Death, right? He goes to load it up so he can punch Roberts. Before Roberts, and they have been teasing the DDT for 13 minutes. Like really, in the opening seconds of the match, Jake goes to hook the DDT, and so they've been teasing it the entire time. Right before DiBiase gets to put the object in, and the ref is distracted, obviously. Jake hits him with the DDT and pins him before the object can be put in the glove and before he can hit him. And then the ref finds the object and is like, and the crowd basically, for all intents and purposes, talks him out of overturning the result, and Jake Roberts wins. So,
very good.
It was fun. Yeah, the crowd loved the finish, everything about it. It was really good.
Yeah, I thought this match was better than the Fantastics match, but not by a lot. I mean, but this was really good, man.
You could 1 and 1A probably.
Yeah, no, neither one is absurd.
Yeah. So as you say, we get a little bit of an intermission. That brings us back to Dutch Mantell versus Butch Reed. Of course, again, Butch Reed, you may think, oh, Butch Reed, heel Butch Reed, the natural Butch Reed, WWF Butch Reed. This is babyface hacksaw Butch Reed, which is confusing and somewhat ironic, and that Jim Duggan is also on this show, and he ends up taking that hacksaw name to WWE and making it hugely popular. But here in Mid-South, Butch Reed is hacksaw Butch Reed, and he's a big-time babyface in this territory. Obviously, Dutch Mantell is Dutch Mantell.
Duggan goes by hacksaw Jim Duggan too. Maybe it's after Reed, but
that's
yeah, it definitely
confusing, isn't it?
That starts in UWF.
Both guys using the.
That was a common football name back then. They didn't give a fuck. Bill Watts liked anything associated with football. What the fuck?
Yes, Rocky. The matches are not on Peacock, but you can find them on YouTube. If you look up Mid-South Wrestling WrestleFest '85, you can find.
If you just type WrestleFest 1985, it'll come up.
Yeah,
you don't even have to type all that other stuff. Yeah.
This match is fun. I was surprised, entertained by this match. Butch Reed plays a good babyface. Dutch Mantell's a really, really, really solid mid-card territory heel. Like,
Shit,
just
he's a main
plug
event heel. Dutch Mantel's
plug,
drew money.
plug and play, right? I mean, I guess tell me a little about, because I don't, maybe I'm not
Dutch Mantel's drew plenty of money in his career. Shit, the last sellout in the Mid-South Coliseum was Jerry Lawler and Dutch Mantel against Buddy Landell and Bill Dundee. And Dutch sold out the Mid-South plenty of times with Lawler, and Dutch could draw, man. Dutch was tremendous. Dutch was another one of those fucking like highly rated all-time promo guys. Just tremendous stuff. So fucking good.
Another
And yeah, I mean, they worked this in a like Dutch works how he needs to work. Like that's the thing too. Like this match is not balls out because you're just coming back from intermission, but it's a lot of work into the crowd and getting them back up, which they did tremendously, and everything looks good. And Butch Reed is kind of one of those underrated all-time guys too, because in his peak, you know, in this era, in and around this era, I mean, he's really fucking good, man.
He's really solid.
Really good.
Yeah, very, very
crazy athletic too.
Yeah, the finish comes when the ref is bumped.
Professional rodeo competitor.
Butch Reed, really?
Yes.
No shit, that's cool. Finish comes, like I say, when the ref is bumped. Dutch goes to get the bull whip, his famous bull whip. He hits Butch Reed with the bull whip, but Butch Reed kicks out at 2, scramble around a little bit. Butch Reed, I thought this was really impressive. Full on fucking presses Dutch Mantel above his head, slams Dutch Mantel, and that's actually the finish. But it was a believable finish because you're like, holy shit! Like 9 minutes, 10 minutes into this match, Butch Reed still has the strength and to get a not light Dutch Mantel up over his head for that press slam. But yeah, the guy that I'm following here to get reviewed. Somebody else did a review. They didn't really. They gave this 1 star to this match, and they didn't really like it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Whoever did this review is an asshole.
Crowd's going crazy.
Yeah, they loved Butch Reed, and that's a theme throughout this entire show, with the exception of one match, which we'll get into here in 1 second. The crowd is into every match all along the card. The baby faces are getting cheered, the heels are getting booed all along the way, and it really has to do with, obviously, this is their hometown promotion. This is what's on television. This is what's weekly, at the local show that they go to, not just the big show like this one. There's local, obviously, small town shows weekly throughout the week, like we talked about. The Loop, you're literally working. There were territory shows on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Oh, Monday, Tuesday, all of
Monday,
them.
Tuesday,
There's a lot of 7 days. Yeah.
all throughout the week, right? And so
they're not working all small. Look, Mid-South ran big places. I mean, their stops were. I mean, they had their, they had some smaller cities and venues, but I mean, they're running Tulsa regularly. They're running, weekly, New Orleans. I mean, they're running all over. I mean, they're running, a lot of big cities.
Yep. On the tape here that we watched, the next match on the show is the NWA World Heavyweight Title match. Ric Flair defends against Dusty Rhodes, and this is, and I mentioned it to you in the chat as I was watching, in our private chat, as I was watching the match. The crowd is awkwardly like they're watching this match, but they're not into it with the same fervor that they are any other match on this card. And
I think they are. I think they are to a degree. I think the dubbing of the Japanese commentary, because I could hear chants
a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, if you watch it, did you watch it with headphones on?
I did not. I watched it.
I did, and I could hear chants, and it sounded like they're getting drowned out. It doesn't sound like it's as hot as the other stuff. I mean, for sure, but I mean, we talked about that too. I mean, those guys, that's not their territory.
Yeah, right. And at that point, it's an attraction match, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. We talked about that earlier. Like, there's kind of a misconception of the NWA title. Like, just because you were world champion doesn't mean that everywhere you went, that was the main event. Like, a lot of the times you were just used as an attraction underneath for a hotter program.
Right. And most of your matches weren't going to end with a real finish a lot of times. So you don't want to end a show with a non-finish like that. So
Yeah, Rocky Drew talks about the repetitive Flair Dusty match. I mean, like this was a good match, and it was a Flair Dusty match. Like,
Yeah,
that's
you've
it.
seen this match. You've definitely seen this match
Yeah.
before. So
Yeah.
there's nothing totally special about the match. There isn't a finish. There, I think it's a double count out or a double disqualification, something. There is no finish to this match. However,
Well, because there was a Dusty ref
another
bump.
ref bump. There's another. This is the third match in a row with a ref bump. By the way.
Yeah, this was. I mean, this is like Jesus. You would think Dusty booked it himself. Jesus.
There's really not much to talk about with that match. To be honest with you, it is what it is. If you've seen Dusty and Flair, you've probably seen this match without even knowing it. That leads us to what is maybe the greatest entrance in the history of entrances.
The main event of my life. That's what we're calling it, the main event of my life. This is fantastic.
Without further ado, like you've seen, Triple H at WrestleMania has a big grand entrance where he's got a huge throne and there's fire, or he's got a giant bike and whatever. John Cena's got this.
This is the 1985 version of that.
This is the 1985 version of that, exactly. So without further ado,
but there's nothing they could do to capture the emotion the way that this did with far less budget, though.
Exactly. Without further ado, let me show you how Dick Murdoch and Jim Duggan got to the ring for the main event of this match. Look at Bill Watts in his fucking red hat walking in front of him. Watts got this one. Look at this. It's so absurd.
It's fantastic.
It is. It's so ridiculous.
Where's the music? Oh my God.
Look at that hat. I love that hat.
Oh my goodness.
It's so good. Him and Bill Watts look like the two guys from the trailer park. They just walk around with cigarettes in their hands.
All right, we can kill that. Yeah, we can kill that. Yeah, that was wow. That was fantastic.
Yeah, they take on the.
I just want you to pretend that you are a middle-aged man in fucking Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1985 and saw that, what you would feel inside. Okay, that's how you fucking put pro wrestling right there.
Yeah, got that real American feel to that entrance. Absolutely right, Rocky.
We talked about this off air. That's how easy it was in 1985. That's another thing too that people don't like. When everybody talks about, and I don't want to get too far into it because it goes into kind of a now thing, but like with this TV 14 thing, it's like the Attitude Era didn't draw because it was good. It was because it reflected pop culture. The same shit as this did in the 80s when we were all heavily pro-America and stuff like that. And the Attitude Era fucking reflected Jerry Springer and Howard Stern and Tom Green and all that shit that was going on at that time. Yeah, and that's why this worked right here, because pop culture 85 was very pro-America.
Yes, absolutely. And of course they had the foreign heels on the other side. You had Kamala, Kareem Muhammad, and General Skandar Akbar. Kareem Muhammad, I don't really know much about him, and I don't know that he really did much. Did he ever? Did he do anything outside of Mid-South?
Yeah, that's Ray Candy, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know who Kareem Muhammad is.
Kareem Muhammad is
Muhammad wrestler.
I'm either thinking
Ray Candy.
Yeah, Ray Candy. Yeah. Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Tell me about what you know about him. I don't know anything about him.
He's a territory guy who's been around. He'd been around for a long time by this point. But this was his biggest, probably his most.
Zambui Express. I remember the Zambui Express.
Yeah, they're on the second Starcade. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. They were the all Japan NWA International Tag Team Champions. He was with Abdullah the Butcher. There you go.
No. I mean, he definitely was a guy who had his run, and he was, he's in a main event here. I mean, he's managed by Skandar Akbar. Like, look, that's the thing, is that it could be that easy sometimes. I mean, like, it's just he's Kareem Muhammad, and he's managed by Skandar Akbar. Like, that's all that it took.
Do you want to see Rocky? I don't know if you're talking about Kareem Muhammad, but let me see if I can find real quick a decent. He's involved in the finish. Let's see. Another guy highly underrated, Dick Murdoch. There's a guy that on Wrestling with the GOAT. We're gonna have to do a deep dive on Dick Murdoch.
Dick Murdoch's fantastic.
So there you go. That gets you an idea. He was a big dude, and
Ray was a big ass guy.
Classic foreign heel, big foreign heel, that sort of deal there. So the
Kamala, who drew money everywhere.
Yeah, the finish is not that big a deal. Watts hits Kamala with the Oklahoma Stampede slam and gets the pin.
That's a pretty big deal for them.
In what way? What do you mean?
Well, just Kamala losing. I mean, that's one of their top guys.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
To Watts too. Skandar Akbar is right there, just begging to be pinned. Kamala must have. I think Kamala must have been gone pretty soon after this. He must have been on his way out.
I bet you're right. I bet you when you look at the timeline, he probably goes to Vince very shortly after this. Yeah.
I don't think he goes to Vince in '85. I think he would have. I think he might have went back to Memphis.
Let's see.
I don't think he goes to Vince till '86.
Bear with me here. He's in that. They have him here, Mid-South Wrestling from '82 to '86. He returns to the WWF in '86.
Yeah, he worked a few shots for them. Yeah, he was
there in '84. He leaves in '84 for a couple of years and comes back in '86. Managed by the Wizard. He faces Hulk Hogan in a series of matches for the title.
Yeah, they drew a lot of money.
Yeah, so there you go.
Hogan,
so he was.
That was an underrated feud for Hogan, money wise.
Yeah, he returns into the WWF in July of '86. So toward the end of of the year in '85, Kamala repeatedly challenged Rick Martel for the AWA Heavyweight Championship. Yeah. In July '85, he wrestled
he is in the AWA in '85. That is where he went. Yeah, that's right.
And then he unsuccessfully challenges Magnum TA for the United States Heavyweight Championship
for Crockett, the Bash. Yeah.
Yep. November, he goes to All Japan, wrestles John Kamala, where he teams with King Cobra, and he made a second tour in '86, and then by July '86, he's back in the WWF. So there you go. All right. So yeah, that is Mid-South Wrestling's WrestleFest 1985. I really enjoyed the show. I guess what we normally do is we rank our favorite matches from one to whatever. And I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I'll say I'll give the Fantastics their due. I'm going to put the Fantastics versus Eddie Gilbert and Jerry Gray as my favorite match. Ted DiBiase versus Jake Roberts as a very close second. I would put One Man Gang and Wendell Cooley as my next favorite match. Flair and Dusty probably goes ahead. I don't know. No, I would say I enjoyed Dutch Mantel and Butch Reed more than I did Flair and Dusty because I just had seen Flair and Dusty before. I'm underrating Flair and Dusty just because it wasn't anything to write home about. It's somewhere in the middle there. So you probably put it before or after the Mantel Reed match, Brickhouse Brown and Nord the Barbarian, and then probably the main event, and then Al Perez and Mark Reagan would probably be the way that I go.
I like the main event though. It was a wild brawl. That shit was fun, man.
Yeah, I'm probably underrating the main event.
I like I thought the Jake and DiBiase was the best match, and Fantastic's number 2. I mean, I thought that was pretty clear that those were the top 2. It's tough to say 3. Maybe Flair Dusty. Flair Dusty was really good. I mean, we've seen it a lot, but it's still fucking good. So, I mean,
Yeah.
But I mean, Butch Reed and Mantel was good, and I mean, I thought there wasn't really a lot of bad on this show. I mean, the main event was a really good brawl for what it was, and I mean, the other matches are like they're there to get guys over, and they do. So, yeah, I mean, it was this is a well booked show. This was fun.
Yes,
I had fun.
I agree totally.
Which is all that matters. Let's run through some of these questions.
Open it up to the question. So let's go back. John Carey asked us, this weekend is like wrestling Woodstock between SummerSlam, Flair's last match, and about 4 other pay-per-views. What you all watching? I'll be honest, none of it.
I'll watch SummerSlam.
SummerSlam just maybe because it's the spectacle of SummerSlam. Flair's last match, that card looks thrown together and weird. In that match, I'm not interested in Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett teaming together. There's nothing about that excites me.
There's nothing exciting about watching Ric Flair fucking wrestle again at 80 years old. And I'm, was as big a Flair fan as anyone. But come on, man. I don't want to.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm not looking forward to that. I don't know what other pay-per-views. There may be some other indie pay-per-views, maybe some GCW, ICW, No Holds Barred, stuff like that. I'm not. I am more when it comes to those shows. I wait for reactions afterwards of people to say,
"Yeah,
oh, man.
if there's something I need to see." But I mean, that's Oh, because this is Starcast weekend too. So no, I'm not. And I know New Japan's doing something, and I mean that's the problem too with a lot of these modern companies. Is a lot of them are very stale too, very stale.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, the new era really isn't our thing. It's not really what we're watching.
Yeah.
And then Rocky, you had a great question, and something that we've kind of touched on a little bit in the past. Who out of the golden era of WWF should have been champion but never was, heavyweight or intercontinental? You said you can name a few. I believe Jake Roberts should have at least had been the intercontinental champion with a snakeskin belt, which would have been cool as fuck. I agree. I'll let you start with this one. I'll let you start and answer this one first, Mike.
It feels like not making Roddy Piper world champion was a missed opportunity.
Oh, huge miss. And we've discussed this before. It's not heel Roddy Piper. Early, challenging.
Could have been, but I mean, since he was
babyface Roddy Piper because he was an underrated babyface.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been a better version, but I mean, it would have been for what it was only going to be a babyface with Vince. So if it was only going to be a babyface, then and that I mean, he definitely could have carried the ball. I mean, there were definitely times that he could have. He was hot for a while.
I think that's the easy answer, and it's the easy answer because it's the most obvious. I think he should have had a better run. I think your Jake Roberts answer is also a very good answer. It's an easy answer.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that in the past too. Pritchard says that about Jake, like, he didn't need a belt, and it's like, well, no, they all do. Like at some point, like if they don't win belts, they become something. The only one who could really get away with that was Andre, and that was because he was like a freak attraction. But sooner or later, like DiBiase and all those guys, like, okay, so he didn't need a belt. Like they said about DiBiase didn't need a belt. Okay, and then what happened to him? He didn't draw, and he wasn't. Yeah, like he's just a mid-card guy because you can't be at the top and like. I mean, what you lose to everybody? Like, how does that work? Yeah, eventually you need belts, man. Everybody does.
Are we going to do the poll results as of right this second, or are we going to let that marinate a little bit?
No, we'll let it build.
Okay, and we'll have an announcement on the Nameless Retro Wrestling Show Facebook page, as well as Wrestling Mecca, about which show we choose.
Yeah.
Of course, Wrestling Mecca will have a link of whatever it is that whatever show we do choose. You'll be able to watch it on Wrestling Mecca so that you can join the conversation with us.
We're the 4 shows that we are looking at. SummerSlam '89. That's the Zeus SummerSlam. Really good top to bottom show. What are the to me probably that's probably the best SummerSlam for
Top 2 or 3.
while.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about all time. I mean, there's been a lot better. People underestimate how good some of their fucking wrestling is on, especially later cards, like down the line, even if we're not into the product. But
True that.
I mean, but in that era for the first, before the Attitude Era closes, it's probably close to the top 1 or 2 in that time frame. Definitely really good. Bash at the Beach '94, the first Hogan Flair match on pay-per-view. That was a really good fucking show too, top to bottom. Sting and Regal, or not Sting and Regal. Who does Regal work on that show? I don't think it's Sting.
What do we talk? Which show are we talking?
Bash '94, Bash at the Beach '94. Sting doesn't work because that was a thing.
Bash at the Beach '94.
Austin and Steamboat.
Regal against Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah, there we go.
House Buck as a team against Dustin Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, well, that's
there's also Wrestling World 2004, which I think is an underrated show. It's a Noah wrestling card from summer of 2004. It's a Tokyo Dome show. There's some really awesome matches on this show. Of course, headlined by Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Yoshihiro Takayama. It's a match for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the NWF Heavyweight Championship. They would unify the titles.
Wait, what is this?
Isn't this what you're Wrestling World 2004?
No.
That's the show. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Noah Departure is what
that was the most fucking. I was like, wait, what the fuck was what? Who?
My bad. Yeah,
I was so lost.
I clicked on the wrong thing.
Let's go Bashi and Akiyama.
Yes, there you go. On some of the stuff on the undercard, Kotaro Suzuki and Ricky Marvin versus Team Chaos, Donovan Morgan and Michael Modest, which you could definitely tell us some stories about. Sternness, Saito and Hashi against the other members of Team Chaos, Richard Slinger and Scorpio. Let's see. Akira Taue and Takuma Sano against Ikeda and Muhammad Yane. GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. Kenta and Marufuji versus Kendo Kashin and Takashi Sugiura, which, if you haven't, Takashi Sugiura is really good. He's one of my favorites. And then, yes, Jushin Liger versus Kanemaru. Minoru Suzuki and Takayama versus Wild 2. Takeshi Rikio and Takeshi Morishima, which Takeshi Rikio is one of my favorite.
Muto. Where's Muto?
Muto. Right here. GHC Tag Team Championships. The Untouchables, Masawa and Ogawa, take on Cult of Muto, which is Kenji Muto and Taiyo Kea. And the main event is...
That was a classic right there with Masawa and Muto in the same match.
Exactly. That happens very rarely, especially at this point. And then the GHC Heavyweight Championship match, Kenta Kobashi takes on Jun Akiyama. And if you've never seen those two wrestle each other, are you missing out?
At the time, there was a lot of consideration when this card took place that it was the best wrestling show of all time. A lot of people said that and thought that at this time. This was an outstanding show.
Whether we watch it because it wins this poll or not, we're probably going to end up watching that show at some point. I would think because of exactly what you just said. We try to pick big shows that mean something, and I think that's a very underrated show that probably a large portion of the Wrestling Mecca audience has no idea about that show. So
Well, we worked with them. What, 3 weeks before that?
yeah,
4 weeks? About
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Masao was in the country,
Yeah.
and whatnot. So, all right, guys. Well, we appreciate you
Oh,
joining us.
Heatwave 98 too. That's also up there. That's a fun one. You don't have to go through the full thing, but that's a fun show though. That's a
Yes.
Mike Awesome, Masato Tanaka, RVD and Sabu against Jinsei Shinzaki and Hayabusa. That's a fun little show.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, guys, help us out. Vote in the poll. Find the poll. It's on Wrestling Mecca. It's on our Facebook page. It's on my personal Facebook page. You can find it there. Please help us out and vote. Until then, this has been the Nameless Retro Wrestling Show here on Wrestling Mecca Radio.